The highest ranking analyst on Wall Street who also analyzes Tesla was just on TV. And during his TV appearance, he sort of pushed back against Cathie Wood about Tesla stock a little bit.
Tesla itself, the company has indicated that things are slowing down a little bit, right? But on the other hand, we're seeing some rate relief. So how should investors be thinking about it?
We're really thinking about this just as some relief just on the stocks, not necessarily on the overall demand profile for EVs. We're really going through a rationalization of the EV supply chain, and I think a market product fit optimization here. And so we're seeing some of the companies go through an evolution of their product offering, and Tesla specifically is going through what we think is a pretty challenging situation to grow at scale and to take market share at scale, because there are real losers now as they continue to take share from here. And we think they really do have a compelling technology platform and cost advantage, but this is really the hard work of industry building and disruption that the company's going through here. And so the stock movement today, I think, is more reflective of positioning in the market. We saw it with the solar names and a number of the higher volatile names or higher beta names that we've got in our coverage universe that specifically have rate exposure on their end markets.
Yeah, before Tesla was able to grow without really hurting anyone else, but now when Tesla sells a few 100,000 more vehicles, that is coming from someone else's sales. Tesla no longer sells just a few 100,000 vehicles a year in total. Tesla is about to sell millions of vehicles per year going forward.
Earlier today, I had the chance to talk to Cathie Wood of ARK Invest. Tesla is the third largest position in the ARK Innovation ETF. And I talked to Cathie a little bit about, she basically said it's positioning reasons that it's now fallen to that level. She is still very confident in Tesla. And I want to get you to react to what she said. Listen up.
All that Tesla's price cuts have done is offset the interest rate hit. So really, the monthly payments haven't gone anywhere. Tesla will continue to cut prices because it can. Its technology costs are falling, and it's profitable. GM and Ford pulling away tells us Tesla's market share in our 5-year investment time horizon is going to be higher than we thought.
So I guess the question following on that, Colin, is how is Tesla positioned versus its competitors, all of whom are grappling with the rate environment and financing costs, et cetera? Is Tesla in a better competitive position?
Of course, Tesla is in a better position. Money is more expensive. You cannot borrow money at super low interest rates. And Tesla has the best cost management out of all of the companies. It also is the most innovative company. So yeah, of course, Tesla is positioned very well here.
So we think they're in a great competitive position from a technology perspective and a cost perspective, where we feel like it's a little bit challenged in her thesis, because she's basically arguing that they won't have to raise prices or they won't have to lower prices to stimulate incremental demand because folks are leaving the market. And we would disagree with her a little bit on that. I think the landscape is changing. I don't see GM and Ford as the primary competition. We're looking at VW and Hyundai as the established OEM leaders in the space, and then companies like BYD in China is the real competition for Tesla over time. And so the worry for us and why we're on the sidelines here is that we think margins are going to be lower for longer than a lot of folks, and that margin expansion story that she's talking about is not going to be necessarily viable, because taking market share means putting folks out of business and taking the market share from them, and they have to get to a price point where they're offering a better value than their competitors on existing vehicles. And what we're seeing in the U.S. is that adoption on EVs is just a little slow because there is a bit of a mismatch on products and market.
Is Cathie Wood picking and choosing here a little bit? Well, let me show you some of the facts. So the monthly payment for a Model Y earlier, a year ago, was $1,100. Today, it is $900. But a year ago, Tesla's pricing was very high. It was artificially sort of inflated. So if you go back to 2019 and we compare monthly payments to 2019 payments, then yeah, Cathie Wood is then right. But I agree with Colin that Tesla's real competition is not GM or Ford, it is going to be the Chinese.
Certainly, there's going to be an effort to unionize Tesla factories and all of the battery factories that are serving the vehicle market. But for now, it's certainly an advantage for them, and certainly an advantage versus a lot of the larger internal combustion engine vehicles that are on the market. And so, that labor content ends up being, a meaningful delta in terms of this price environment. So we do see that as a tailwind for Tesla short term. I think there's a much larger challenge around labor and labor pricing in this country, especially as we go into increased automation in these factories. And I think there's going to be, an ongoing conversation, both politically, but also in the business world around what's the right price for labor and what's a living wage for folks.
I think there's a clear consensus that these union strikes that resulted in higher costs for other automakers, all of that is an advantage for Tesla, assuming that Tesla's employees do not unionize.
If you try and resell your Cybertruck to somebody externally in the first year, that Tesla can try and claw back what you make on it. I assume this is pretty unusual, yes?
Yeah, I haven't seen that before in my life. It's an interesting data point. I think a lot of the folks that are buying, the Cybertruck here in the early edition really are buying it for themselves. That they're not traders in that way. That it's a concern for Tesla is interesting. I think they're a little worried about their backlog eroding. Then that's the only real takeaway from that data point. And so I think what's going to be interesting for the company is getting the volume and getting these vehicles out on the road and seeing how they're really received by the owners once they're out and driving them. And we've seen, the early adopters in Tesla historically be really enthusiastic about the products, but once you get a little bit deeper into the demand curve, there's a little bit more of a mixed response on some of the service and some of the performance. It's the first of kind vehicle with a lot of innovation. They're certainly going to run into a little bit of friction, and it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But I think they're definitely doing a little protection here with that clause, and it's highly unusual.
Technically, Tesla has now removed that clause, but it could easily come back. Mercedes-Benz launches its first EV charging hub in the US with 400 kilowatt piles from ChargePoint. Mercedes intends to build and operate over 400 additional locations by the end of the decade. Compared to Tesla's plans, this is not many. Tesla right now already has almost 2,000 supercharger locations in the US, with about 22,000 supercharger ports. Volkswagen has not made a decision on producing a $20,000 electric car yet, but the CEO is convinced that the company can get there by the second half of the decade. But the big question is, which decade? Elon Musk made a comment here. Super messed up. She can stop pretending to run for president now. This is about Nikki Haley saying that she wants every social media user to be verified by their real name for national security purposes. Elon also said true about this comment from Cathie Wood that Tesla is the biggest AI play in the world. As Cathie Wood was saying that, she was asked, how come you sold Tesla stock? She didn't really quite finish that sentence. I thought that was a bit funny. Well, she did finish the sentence, but she got interrupted in the middle of trying to finish the sentence. If you haven't seen yesterday's video breaking her logic down, you may watch it now. The strike against Tesla in Sweden continues, but Matthew has a few ideas how to solve this problem. There are customers that are worried about not being able to repair their vehicles. So here's the solution. Number one, acquire a retiring Ro-Ro ferry. Number two, install floating Tesla service center equipment on it and additional sleeping quarters. Number three, moor the ferry in a private marina in Stockholm, in Sweden, and staff with crew members from any EU country. Once the strike ends, the ferry can be reused as a temporary service center in any port city globally, which would help Elon maintain a union-free global workforce. It is quite an interesting idea, and we know that Tesla likes interesting ideas. Tesla sees a critical supplier get snatched up by GM. This is a supplier for Tesla's gigacasting technology. The company is called TEI. TEI is a specialist in sandcasting techniques which Tesla uses to create its molds for gigacasting. casting. The news of the acquisition comes just after it was reported that Tesla had achieved a breakthrough using industrial sand with 3D printers to create even bigger cast parts that could eventually result in entire vehicle bodies being produced in a single part. And so now, Tesla is believed to be looking for a new partner for sand casting techniques. The latest casting technology is believed to be critical to Tesla's next generation vehicles based on its new unbox manufacturing process. While it appears the acquisition of their partner by GM is a setback, it's unclear if it will actually affect the timeline for Tesla's new vehicle programs. With TEI gone, Tesla is reportedly leaning more heavily on 3 other casting specialists it has used in Britain, Germany, and Japan. Reuters says that it is estimated that GM paid less than $100 million for this company, with one estimate saying that it is $80 million. So it is a tiny company. I don't think this is really that bad for Tesla. It's not a positive, but I don't think it's going to create any significant problems for Tesla. Here's a list of leaders that have visited Tesla gigafactories in the US. So a leader of India, Israel, Thailand, Hungary, but not the US president. I think the US president being pro-union probably has a lot to do with this.